at BAFTA HQ in central London, where on this stage last night I had the great pleasure and privilege of interviewing Terry Gilliam.
Oh! Nothing's permanent, not even death.
The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Now, as I'm sure you'll know, I'm a huge Terry Gilliam fan. I always have been. I love his movies. And I did a blog a few weeks ago in which I was complaining about the fact that Johnny Depp wasn't going to make the newly relaunched Don Quixote film. He was going off to make Pirates of the Caribbean 4 for financial reasons. But I also said in that same blog that I had seen The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, and I was kind of divided about it. And there were some things that worked and some things that didn't, interestingly enough. The things that didn't work were nothing to do with the tragic death of Heath Ledger. Actually, I thought the way in which the new actors had filled in the spaces worked perfectly seamlessly, but I wasn't entirely convinced that the film worked as a whole, and I said I was going to go back and see it again. Well, the National Press Show is looming, and by the time I get to review the film on the Simon Mayo Show on Radio 5 on Friday, I will indeed have seen The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus for a second time, and I have the suspicion that it will look like a very different film second time round. So tune in on Friday to find out what I think, but it started me thinking about whether there are some kind of films which just inherently need to be seen more than once to be fully understood and appreciated, and whether that might actually be quite a good thing. You look back at Terry Gilliam's previous film, Tideland. I remember the first time I saw that, I was really uncomfortable about it. I felt very edgy, very unsure, very uncertain. Then I went round to see it again, and the next time round, I really thought it was a different film. In fact, my experience at Tideland was so common that Terry Gilliam himself said that he wanted to put a quote on the poster which said, "It's a totally different experience the second time round." I've spoken on this blog before about the fact that the first time I ever saw David Lynch's Blue Velvet, I just hated it, and I stormed out of a screening at the Corner House in Manchester, and then later I went back to see it and realised that it was one of the greatest films of the decade. Or Synecdoche, New York, which was a film which the first time I saw it, I thought it was a total headache of a movie. It was just too complicated and too full of itself for its own good, and it tied itself up in knots. So I thought, well, you know, maybe I just wasn't up to the challenge. And I went back and I saw it again. And it was even worse the second time round. It was very interesting to see. No, it wasn't that I wasn't up to the film. It's that the film wasn't up to me. And second time round, it was even worse. Breaking the Waves, another example. Blimey! Seeing that film for a second time demonstrated I was completely right the first time. It is one of the nastiest, most misogynistic pieces of crap I've ever sat through. So here's what I want to know. Are there films which you've seen, which you think really need more than one viewing to get them? Let me know which films in your own cinema-going history have required 2 viewings to really get the measure of the film. Because nowadays, in this age of everything is opening weekend, a film has to perform really big with a big audience on the first Friday night, and after that it's gone. It's very difficult sometimes to see films more than once. So let me know which films you think cannot be fully judged on their first screening. And then tune in to Radio 5 on Friday to find out whether Dr. Parnassus looked different second time round.
It's been a while.